Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Natalia Moczulska and this is the news. Let the Poles pay so we don't pursue them. This was the statement used by the commander of Russian mercenaries called the Wagner Group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, during his military putsch last June. Ukrainian media came into possession of a recording of a telephone conversation between Belarusian dictator Lukashenko and the commander of the Wagner Group. It was one of the most surprising twists inside Russia after its full-scale attack on Ukraine. One of the regime's favorites, a former personal chef and close friend of Putin himself, went against him by organizing a coup. After the catastrophic losses the Russians suffered in the spring of 2023 in Ukraine and the Wagner-bleeding Battle of Bakhmut, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the commander of a Russian mercenary group, began a campaign to criticize the actions of the Russian command. Faced with Moscow's ignorance, Prigozhin decided on a desperate move. He organized a coup in Rostov, taking control of the city, then moved with troops towards Moscow.
This whole episode has sowed really profound anxiety across Russia's elites. It's one more example after the launching of the invasion against Ukraine itself and the disastrous conduct of the war. One more example of Putin just being out of time and having consistently poor judgment and making mistakes.
Ukrainian media have just published a recording of a conversation that allegedly took place between self-proclaimed Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko and Prigozhin. It was Minsk that joined the game at the critical moment when Putin gave the order to pacify the putsch and sent the military on Prigozhin's route to Moscow, which was ordered to shoot at the Wagner mercenaries. We held several rounds of talks and came to a perfectly acceptable, bloodless solution to the problem. I'm provoking the Russian side a bit. They may have other options, you know. For example, they can eliminate Prigozhin. That's one option. No, eliminating Prigozhin? It would cost the lives of so many people. It would be a disaster. Several minutes after this conversation, Lukashenko issued a statement that Prigozhin and his men would agree to stop and move to Belarus. Interestingly, he was already very close to Moscow. The first clashes with the Russian army took place. Bridges over the Otta River were mined on Putin's orders, and the dictator himself was about to flee from Moscow to St. Petersburg. However, the most significant from our point of view is the part of the conversation concerning Poland. You can see how real was the threat of the Wagner mercenaries' attempt to destabilize our border last summer. I will say that we had agreements on coordination of combat, on rest and so on, and I will express my dissatisfaction to Putin. And you will get money from him for expenses, right? Listen, we'll manage. Even if he loses his mind and doesn't give money, we'll find it. Let the Poles pay, so we don't pursue them. Maybe that too. We'll take care of it. There is a problem, but it is a small one. In the end, the Wagner mercenaries did indeed come to Belarus. Some of the mercenaries were recruited into the Russian army. Some were engaged in training Belarusian soldiers. Prigozhin himself did not live long. 2 months later, he was killed in a plane crash in the Tver region of Russia. The machine was supposedly shot down by Russian anti-aircraft defenses. Since the 1st of July, energy and gas prices have increased in Poland. Surely you have already noticed this by getting your bills. Winter is coming and it's getting colder, so we have to heat our homes. But some people think that talking about energy price increases has nothing to do with the truth. Who says so? The person who is most informed. That is the Polish Minister of Climate and Environment. Let's take a closer look at the situation. Meanwhile, the Polish Minister of Climate and Environment believes that it is untrue, the lie repeated very often by representatives of the opposition, that energy prices in Poland are increasing dramatically. It has absolutely nothing to do with the truth. A year ago, energy was 20% more expensive. Apparently, Minister Henning Kloska made a mistake when interpreting the data, because the opposite is true. The average price of electricity bills has increased by about 20% compared to the previous year. The minister's manipulation is all about falling energy prices on the wholesale market in Europe. which have nothing to do with the amounts on Polish people's bills. July's electricity increases will only be felt as the heating season has begun and evenings are longer. Bills will go up for everyone by a couple of percent anyway. We asked Poles how rising electricity bills are affecting their household budgets. I am terrified. I can compensate for any price increase with savings. I'm sure I'll feel it because it's higher by a couple percent. I'm on my own, and on top of that, I'm a pensioner. The government passed a bill on Tuesday to maintain energy prices until the end of September next year. According to the opposition, the government's decision was not made to help Poles and is only related to the upcoming presidential election.
Jak się skończy kampania, odbędą się wybory, wróci stare.
When the campaign is over, elections will be held. The old will return. But in this bill, does the government freeze energy prices and help hospitals? No.
Dlaczego to jest na 9
Schools? No. Kindergartens? No. Nurseries? No. Local government institutions? No. Why is it for 9 months? Because in the first half of the year, there are to be elections. And then July, August, September, it is low consumption. And so these fees will not yet be so high. But in fact, it's just a campaign rhetoric. Wholesale energy prices in Poland are among the highest in Europe. This state of affairs is due to the need to meet the EU goal of achieving climate neutrality, which in turn will entail a major financial effort for our economy. In view of this, the government has developed an unusual strategy. The climate minister argued in the parliament yesterday that wind energy can be balanced by solar energy, without adding that renewable energy sources always have to be supported by, for example, coal or nuclear, due to their dependence on the weather. But the minister's explanation is downright absurd. Energy from wind and energy from the sun are two important complementary legs, because it is so that in Poland, often when the sun shines, the wind doesn't blow. And when the wind blows, the sun doesn't shine. That's the kind of beauty or characteristics we have, and this energy is complementary. If you don't understand, I will show you during the next session some kind of graphs on how energy from the sun and from the wind give the same volumes for 12 months. One could even laugh, treating this statement as a joke, if it weren't for the fact that, judging by these kinds of statements by the politicians of the December 13th coalition, it appears that the government has no strategy to help Poles in connection with the energy transition. Thousands of illegal immigrants are on their way to the United States. Latin American residents are taking advantage of the last moments of President Biden's administration to cross the leaky border. The migrant crisis and Russia's increasingly aggressive policies are the most pressing challenges for the incoming Donald Trump administration. The president-elect is announcing more appointments and promising quick changes. What impact might this have on Poland? Another caravan of migrants, numbering some 1,500, has set off from southern Mexico toward their promised land. My goal is to reach the United States to start a better life there, along with my sister. I am responsible for the whole family, so I want to study, work, achieve something in life, and become someone. Most of these people hope to cross the borders before Donald Trump takes power, who has already announced a ruthless fight against illegal migration. I watched an interview in which Trump said he would deport anyone who committed a crime, but for an immigrant who has not committed any crime, there will be no deportation. So I'm not afraid of anything. Whatever happens, my dream is the American dream. But the clash between dream and reality may turn out to be a nightmare. Incoming Vice President J.D. Vance has already announced that up to 1 million illegal migrants could be deported annually. Most are expected to end up in Mexico. In the event of deportation, we will accept Mexicans, and we have a plan for that. But before that happens, we will work to show that there is no reason to deport our citizens who are on the other side of the border. However, on the other side of the border, the mood is different. Americans are hoping that Trump will quickly fix the mistakes of the Biden administration and seal the borders. Texas authorities have already offered to donate land for possible deportation centers.
And when we talk about these violent criminals who continue to hurt our sons and daughters. I believe there's a lot of, a majority of people who say we want these people off of our soil. We want our communities safe. We want our children to be safe.
The president-elect is acting quickly and completing his administration efficiently. Pam Bondi, who represented Trump in his first impeachment trial, is to become the Attorney General. From the Polish point of view, the most important ministries are those responsible for security and foreign policy, especially in the context of Russia's recent aggressive actions. We already know the names of Trump's nominees for the Minister of Defense, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the Security Advisor. One should keep in mind that they will carry out the president's orders. As President Trump associates Poland and how he remembers his visits and meetings with Polish politicians through this prism, they will make certain decisions. The friendly welcome Trump received in Warsaw in 2017, good relations with Polish President Andrzej Duda, purchases of modern military equipment, and the decision to build the first nuclear power plant in our country with the Americans will certainly help in forging relations with the new administration. And in it, Matthew Whitaker, former Attorney General and soon presumably the new U.S. Ambassador to NATO, will also play an important role. Matt is a strong warrior and loyal patriot who will ensure the United States' interests are advanced and defended. Matt will strengthen relationships with our NATO allies and stand firm in the face of threats to peace and stability. He will put America first. Donald Trump adds that he will conduct foreign policy according to the principle of peace through strength, which is expected to deter the temptations of autocrats while strengthening U.S. allies. The Siedlce volcano near Reykjavik has erupted for the 10th time in 3 years, spewing fountains of lava and massive plumes of smoke into the air. It is accompanied by an earthquake and a 3-kilometer-long crack. Local authorities have ordered the evacuation of Grindavik residents and declared a state of emergency. Spectacular eruptions on the Reykjanes Peninsula, known as fissure eruptions, did not directly affect the capital and did not significantly disperse ash into the stratosphere, avoiding disruptions to air traffic. Scientists warned that Reykjanes could see volcanic eruptions recurring for decades, perhaps even centuries. Iceland, with a population of nearly 400,000, is located on a fault line between the Eurasian and North American tectonic plates, making it a seismic hotspot with geysers, hot water springs, and more than 100 volcanoes. The astronomical winter is still a month away, but snow has already hit Europe, from Scandinavia through France and Germany to northern Italy. Children and winter sports enthusiasts are delighted. However, drivers and all municipal and road services are less thrilled by the snowstorm. Paris monuments, sidewalks, and streets became covered with snow. Foreign tourists dressed in winter jackets and coats took pictures of themselves enjoying the magnificent views of the city's snow-covered rooftops. I am very happy. I haven't seen Paris like this for a long time. It is beautiful. This is our first time in Paris, and it's snowing like this, but it's wonderful. An orange alert is in effect for heavy snowfall in 31 French regions, from Normandy in the north through the Paris region to the Alps in the south. Snow fell earlier than usual in southern Germany this year. Visitors to Bavaria and Saxony are delighted. Children are making their first snowmen, but drivers need to be extra careful. We're happy we came here yesterday, and today it snowed, and I think it's just great. The weather is perfect. We are prepared, so there is no problem if you are wearing the right clothes. Snow in the United Kingdom is quite rare. However, meteorologists warn of snowstorms and freezing temperatures for England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. There is definitely no getting around the need for winter tires. centimeters. The first snow of the season also fell in Kiev. Despite the constant threat of attacks from Russia, residents of the Ukrainian capital are optimistic. Unfortunately, power outages are still occurring, but as for the mood, the first snow has fallen. Nevertheless, we should enjoy life. I'm not afraid of blackouts, but the shelling scares me. We survived the winter of 2022-2023, and we will survive this one too. We will be fine. Intense snowfall caused traffic jams in the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina and in around Sarajevo. Emergency services are struggling to keep the main arterial roads passable, but some roads had to be closed due to the sudden snowfall. More than 30 centimeters of snow fell in just a few hours. Snow also fell in Poland. Snow appeared in many regions of our country. The precipitation hit residents of Warsaw, Zakopane, the Podlasie region, and Silesia, among others. But a strong winter storm is yet to come. The latest weather forecast shows that the Arctic front will remain in Europe for at least a week, bringing cold and heavy snowfall. One should prepare for serious difficulties. That's all for the news tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.